Welcome to the NOV Washpipe training video. Each order of an NOV washpipe from National Oilwell Varco should be checked to ensure that all parts are accounted for. This should include the floating assembly, the upper nut, the lower nut, 2 seals in protective plastic cases, a tightening rod, 2 ratchets, one 1/2 inch and the other 3/4 inch, 4 bolts, an installation plate, and an instruction manual. For the installation, you will also need grease or dope, clean light oil, and safety wire, as well as pliers for installing the safety wire. Before the installation begins, check the seals to ensure that they are in good order. Look at the bottom rotating seal to make sure both surfaces are clean and undamaged. Look at the top stationary seal as well to make sure both surfaces are clean and undamaged. Make sure all O-rings are in place on the floating assembly, as well as on both nuts. The floating assembly is shipped with cotter pins already in place. The first step is to use grease or dope on the threads and face of the swivel stem, as well as on the threads and face of the gooseneck adapter. Use the grease on the inside threads of the lower nut before placing it on the swivel stem. Using the tightening rod, tighten the lower nut to between 300 and 350 foot-pounds. Grease the inside threads of the upper nut as well. But before installing it, be sure to place the installation plate on top of the lower nut. Only tighten the top nut to about 50 or 60 foot-pounds, as it'll need to be rotated later. Use grease or dope on the surface of the floating assembly before installation. Leave the installation plate in place while installing the floating assembly to avoid damaging the parts. It's important to place the springs at approximately 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions. Place the bolts beginning with the 2 closest holes. Once these are in place, unscrew the upper nut and floating assembly to the right, since it's a left-handed thread, allowing access to the other 2 bolt holes. After placing all 4 bolts, tighten them to between 45 and 50 foot-pounds. National Oilwell Varco recommends these bolts be safety wired as a precaution. Now the top nut should be tightened to between 300 and 350 foot-pounds. Remove the installation plate and prepare the seals for installation by rechecking that they are clean and free of any damage. Apply light oil to the top surface of the bottom nut, as well as both surfaces of the bottom rotating seal. When the seal is placed, make sure the arrow is facing up as indicated. Similarly, apply light oil to the bottom of the floating assembly and both surfaces of the top stationary seal. Carefully slide the top seal into place, making sure the arrow is facing down as indicated. Lower the floating assembly by loosening the two nuts beneath the springs. It's important to alternate between the two nuts to lower the assembly evenly. Unscrew the two nuts down to the cotter pins. And that's it. Your wash pipe is completely assembled and ready for testing. Thank you for watching the NOV Washpipe training video.